Stream, you're so silly. It tells me it's not playing. It's like the stream is offline. It's not offline though. It just wants me to think it's offline. So yeah, it thinks it's like, oh yeah, you're online or it's offline, and then I'm sitting here like staring at my screen, waiting for it to like, be like, oh, never mind, we're silly. So that's what's happening. So I have to play. Okay, so someone wanted me to go over mastering today, but now that I think about it, I don't have anything to master. Let me think real quick. No, it's not ringing a bell. I have anything. Do I have stuff? I don't have, like, I don't know what my current situation is of like things I have. Maybe we could actually take an old track I got. I'll go download it because I own it. I'll go download it off of SoundCloud and throw it in here as a WAV file. And I'll try to master that. It was actually really well mixed. It wasn't mastered at all as far as I know. So do I have a download option for it? Nope, that's just the quick thing. Save the changes, then I'll go download it. That's silly how, like, if I own it, well, I guess it's a good way of like verifying if you can or not download it, but like I feel like if I own it, I should be able to download it without having to enable permissions, and I'm sure there's a way. Actually, I don't use SoundCloud too much. Hi, Fanta. Oh god, I look so fat. I'm eating chocolate. Okay. It doesn't actually look mastered at all. Although that's hard to tell. So, can I play? No, don't. I don't want it as a favor, okay? Yes, Crew Cax. I think I said in the tutorial even that I had started this whole entire song off of those presets or those samples that in a totally legitimate pack I had bought in the 128 section at the bottom. So I had used this. And then I used this. Nope. Nope. It's right over here. I'll find it in a second. This one. So I had this was at this direct bass is over here. It's right in there, and there was chords that sounded like this that I used for this song as well. So I had originally had the chords right in here, but I actually replaced them with my own chords. I just figured out the MIDI with my ear. I used these chords and this as part of my mixing tutorial. I just went with it because it just sounded so nice. Anyways. I'm trying to give everyone context of the song so you can kind of hear what it sounds like. I'm trying to make electro, but you can just hear the DMB in there. It's really funny. And then it's like basses were mixed like well, but they just weren't loud. And then there's a lot of presets from the song I wish I would have saved. And this section here is really lame. And then this is back to the drop again, but it has this lame lead over top of it. I got really lazy around this section of the song, and then yeah. So let's try to mix it. So it already had. Oh no, it doesn't. It does not. It does not. Thank you, Krukax. So let's start mixing it, like trying to master it. So people might think, okay, so mastering to everyone thinks make the song as loud as you can. Make the song as loud as you can on like. That's what it is. Everyone's just like, yeah, make it as loud as you can without ruining the sound. That's not what mastering is at all. Relatively, you want to have all your stuff coming out around 0 decibels no matter what you do. Because you put it on stuff like SoundCloud and iTunes, especially iTunes, will actually just lower the volume of your song to make sure all the volume between songs is consistent. Like I noticed, like I could add an extra 2 ticks to like any song I listen to off of iTunes versus a song of the same song that I would have like MP3'd off of YouTube. So it's not necessarily making things louder because like in the end it doesn't matter at all really, and like people can just turn up the volume if they want. Because the way volumes work on a phone is from 100% down. So the 100%, like all your volume all the way up would be the full volume of the track. So it's not like it's adding volume to your track. So yeah, keep that in mind. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do some stuff with the EQ. I want to use FabFilter, but I'm gonna keep this like entirely. It's just so easy, FabFilter. So I'm gonna open a patcher, and I'm going to show the plugin picker, and I'm gonna grab a EQ, an EQ, a stereo imager. Where's it at? I like how you can put a patcher inside of a patcher. Where's this? I can never find anything in this program. And then I guess I'll use one Maximus. Yeah. And then I'll put a limiter in here. I may or may not use it. I'll try to use it as like a maximizer, which I don't know if we'll get away with that. And then what else would you really need? Obviously, your master channel needs a Vocodex. Totally legit. Don't I like lots of people put Sound Goodizer on everything. Sound Goodizer is literally presets out of Maximus. It's right here. Sound Goodizer presets. If you open them, it just shows you what they do. Like, it's just Maximus, but they're pretty intense forms of compression because it really changes the sound. I would never recommend using Sound Goodizer like ever, unless you're going to use it as an instrument to design a sound, not just to throw on every single sound, because not every single sound needs it. It depends on the sound, so that's something that has to be taken into consideration when making things. Or if you add it to a sound, you have to make it work with the sound. You can't just like add a full, like, you can't just add Sound Goodizer to everything, turn up the knob all the way, and then just move on. Like, you have to EQ after and mix out things and figure out how it's gonna go. So the way I'm gonna route this is I'm gonna every FL Studio user will have, every image line customer that has bought an FL Studio will have access to Patcher. They will not have access to Maximus. You will have access to Maximus if you've bought the signature bundle, the 300 and something dollar version, and you'll get Maximus along with Citrus. Stereo Shaper is everyone should have that as well. Yeah. So Maximus is just like exclusive to Signature or above unless you've bought it. I have the old plugins bundle. I bought that like almost 2 years ago. So I have all these plugins. So if you don't have any of these plugins, then it's not going to work quite the same. So I'm going to, first of all, take these. I'm going to route my Stereo Shaper to one of my parametric EQs, which is then going to go to my Maximus. Should I do maximizing after multiband? Yeah, because it can glue together the multiband compression, so I'll do that. Oops. I'll route that to that and that to that, but I'm going to actually go to this limiter and just remove the ceiling. So the ceiling all the way up here at 12 decibels, it calls it. Positive 12 decibels is like so loud. Like, it's so loud. So nothing you could ever make in FL will actually reach 12 decibels, because that's on, if you look at the tracks here, the maximum of like all of these tracks is somewhere between 6 and 12. I think it's 6. So if you go any louder than 6, nothing will come out louder of the master than 6. So you'll start. So that's why you don't want anything going above like the halfway point on these markers. But so I'm gonna put it up at 12, so it's never ever going to act and do anything if I put the ceiling all the way up. Or I could make a bypass and send it through, but this is how we're gonna do it. So have it all the way up. So what I'm gonna do is, there's a very specific preset for Stereo Shaper in the mixing called the mid A-side splitter, and I'm going to take this, and then you'll notice it says in-out difference at 2. So what it means by in-out difference is that it's gonna come in, and then it's gonna send out a difference. It's gonna send an out and a difference. So the out is gonna be whatever came through, and then it's gonna actually stereo separate and then send the difference, which is only the stereo, out through number 2, which is, I think it calls a sidechain output number. So I want to right click on Stereo Shaper, go to Outputs, Audio, and I want to activate the Send to, and I'm going to route that to my Parametric EQ2. So I'm going to turn all the volume down on Parametric EQ2, the one, so this top one. Can we name this right now without you being annoying? So this is going to be all the mid. I'm going to name this differently because it's not really how I like to do it. Let's rename it. I'm going to make this the out. I'm going to make this the difference. So I'm going to turn off. I just took this knob and I turned it all the way down to 0. I can't believe you can put that at 200%. So all the way to 0. So there's no out. So when I listen to this now, it should sound really weird. When I'm listening to this now, you won't be able to tell where the sound is coming from anymore. It just sounds insanely unnatural what you're listening to. So, but that's how I know it's working, and I can, for some reason, it doesn't want to display the fact that there's audio coming in here, because I don't know why. So I'm going to come in here, and then I'm going to cut. You can't see any of the audio, unfortunately, but like I just said, but I'm going to cut this, and then probably use a slope like that. And I'm just going to move this over to like 120-ish. And then I'm going to come to the out. And move this to 35-ish. So if I turn this back on. And then if I turn this down, it sounds like really center. So this is basically the thing that gives it. So you have your mono output, and then it will come at you. So basically, if I were just to turn this off, you could use. It'd be very easy to use just a single earbud, or only have one speaker. So that's how things were used to be done when you had monophones. That's what they're called, monophones, is because they only had mono. So there were those things you put the records on with the big horn. So that would only play mono, but now we have speakers. So I have 2 monitor speakers. So when I play an out, like just the mono, it's just going to play like from the center, because they're both going to play the exact same thing. So I'm going to hear the same thing in both ears, and relatively it's going to sound like it's coming from in front of me, which doesn't make any sense. Like directly in front of me, because nothing is ever mono in real life. Everything bounces off of walls or the environment, and it's always coming in from angles, whereas this is like weirdly artificial if you're in a heavily dampened room, which I am. So yeah, and then when you turn it off, you'll have only the difference. So now your ears have no possible way of telling where the sound originated from, similar to how if you were to be in like a cathedral and someone were to yell in the cathedral, chances are you wouldn't actually know where they are, because you're just hearing the echo. So you can't direct the sound. So now, and when I play, so I have them cut now, right? So if I were to play them both right now. Some weird stuff. I'm on another time limit again. In the middle of streaming. Mother wants me to go pick up my little brother. Okay, so yeah, I want to make sure these are both at 100%, but now we've mid-side split it here, so that's what we've done in this section. And then everything's going to come into this Maximus, which thankfully will display audio. Although it looks really weirdly laggy for some reason. How about this one? This one's like a little laggy in the patcher for some reason. Alright, I'm not going to use it in the patcher then. I'm just going to actually delete this. Delete, and then I'm just going to send these both back to FL Studio. So then now, this is... What? No, why would I ever want to do that? That was so dumb. So I'm going to... What did I do? I've tested it, and this song just sounds good. Like no matter what tempo you play it at, it's so great. I pressed one of the keys in the keyboard, so it started playing like the entire sample. You made Nightcore, yeah. It just takes 2 seconds, man. Like if I were to play like C5, it plays normal, and then if I just bump it up by like 12 semitones or 12,000 cents. Though the faster you go, the more of the bass you take out of like the audio. So I guess you could night chord if you played like a fifth up, which would be but like all the subs gone now, right? And if I played it like lower, okay, that sounds like a whole different song. I should literally take this and sample out sounds. Yeah, we're getting very sidetracked. It sounds pretty sweet though. That would be impossible to master because the transients would just be so fat, like everything would just come out as a mess. So you would actually have to do it properly. Okay, so I should turn that. So let's go back to doing this. Add some delay. It will be vaporwave. Okay, so when you master, so here's a very common way to master. In FL Studio, you make 2 Maximuses and you turn one off for drops and turn a different one on specifically for drops, and then you switch it again. I'm not going to do that though, because I believe in, I don't know what I believe in. So we're going to do, so I like to start with the drop for mastering. So I'll be honest with you, I don't actually master ever. I just make sure everything coming in my master is below 6, anywhere below 6 decibels, and I just throw a limiter on it, and I bring it up to 0, and then I mid-side split it, and I'm like, and I move on with my life. So we'll do this a little differently. So I never actually seriously used Maximus. So the thing with Maximus is you have like this graph on the side, right, which I believe stands for threshold and output. So this dot here on the right is always going to be your output level. So you always want to keep that at 0. Yes, because you can change that with this gain knob specifically for the frequencies you're listening to. So if you move your threshold here, this is your threshold, this thing, to the left, because you're in. Well, hang on a second. Yeah, I believe this is your threshold right here. Or it goes down. I forget. So read the manual. So if you move stuff around, then like move this around. This is kind of like the tightness of the compression. So let's move this around a bit. Let's solo this as well. Rip. love saturation. So I'm gonna use a saturation to kind of saturate like the very top of the volume. You don't have to use saturation. We don't want any stereo separation here, by the way. Actually, this won't do anything because you already got rid of it, so you can ignore that knob entirely. Here's important, setting where your bands are. On. Okay, so you want your bands. So, Maximus already does a good job at setting them. Personally, though, I'd like to put this around 150. So yeah, I'm gonna go back to compressing this now. So you want the sub area, if you watch this graph, to be really rounded out. Like you want it to be nice and clean, but like not like this. You want it to be like smooth with very minimal attack. But you see now how it sounds like the bass has been turned down. So you want to go through like compress everything and then adjust volumes. So as you get higher, you're going to want to do less and less compression, ideally. That was not the band I was looking for. Let's do this. And then I'm really used to using like iZotope 7, not like at all massive. Like I use like the best like mastering software, like single unit mastering software there is. So like I never used Maximus. Like I don't know what it's capable of, or like really like the knobs are just so weird. Like it's just such an individual plugin. So darn, we'll turn it up momentarily. We're going to do this right now. So you want to have really fast releasing everything on the high end for compression. So you guys have to tell me if it's sounding cleaner or not. I think it is, but you can never trust your own opinion, like ever. Always, you know what I mean? Like you need feedback from somebody. Okay, but check this out. So if I turn this limiter on, see how it's actually working? But you see how I've actually added gain? So now I need to work with this limiter to make sure the limiter isn't working. Through all points of the song and get down the average of it like really like low. See how in that big... So this was the start. We'll play a little bit here. That was like the before, and then now this is the after. Part of the problem there is when I made this song, I thought it was cool to like add on like 5 decibels of gain to all my limiting, so it sounds louder. But I do believe it sounds like better, like listenably wise. So I don't know if that explained anything for mastering. Basically, like you just want tight compression on the low, less tight on the mid, and then like the least amount of compression on the high. But it's not always true. Like it really depends on what sounds you want to bring out of the mix. Like it's very is part of a new being new to making music. It's very important to just like experiment, and if it doesn't sound good, don't use it. And even if it doesn't sound good, whatever, it's not like you have a career depending on it or anything, you know. Like it's something that you can music right now is something that you can afford to take tolls on, like when it's not good, I guess. So you'll learn eventually when you hear things in a mix. You'll hear what you want to do. All I messed around with these 5 knobs here were like all I really touched. You can ignore the saturation on the thing, and then I messed around with this graph a little bit. So kind of like the post, the stuff coming in versus the stuff coming out, and the compression, and I just moved the bands around like barely, and then like this low band is really loud to get like really bring that bass out because it's compressed so hard. Yeah, and then like the master has a little bit of gain on it, and I basically just made it so it's not, the master's not actually going to really compress anything, because it goes from it splits the bands and then it sends it to a master, similar to how like if this master slot wasn't here and I just had a limiter after it, that's what this is acting as, is like a limiter before out. So I'm just gonna make sure it's not actually doing anything to it, and then I just use the limiter to check the volume coming out, and then I like the limiter once again isn't even doing anything. Like I could take the ceiling off this, and if I play it, I'm not clipping because my mix is so perfect, like in terms of like volume and control of the sounds. It's just so perfect that like none of the sounds are going to come out. It's not even because I have a limiter stopping it from clipping. Like when I was making this song, whenever I make anything, I don't put limiters on it, and I make sure I can mix it to the point where like it's never being, the peak limiter or limiting is never a necessary function for a song. Like it doesn't need to be there for it to sound good. There'll be like no clipping. And that's very important for when you go into the mastering stage, because the less clipping problems you have, the better, because then when you come into like doing your mastering, like nothing goes bad. And like you'll see people mix things, like me or anyone else, like making songs, and you'll see clipping when it's coming out and we're finishing up stuff. It's not going to clip anymore. Like we'll go back, check tracks, mix everything properly, start doing our mastering after we've mixed everything properly, and there's no more clipping. So you're not red barring and stuff. So that was my thing. And then stereo splitting as well, which if you don't do the stereo splitting, you're putting more stress on your master compression. So you always want to do your stereo cutting as well, because there's going to be all the stuff in this area that's there and very loud, but you can't hear it. Like if I turn this off, I can hear it, but the average listener, the vast majority of people, you don't notice. If you do notice, it's a very bass heavy song with lots of reverb or whatever, and this will help even more. So it's something to really take out, because it really takes the stress off of your master compression and stuff. This went a lot better than I thought it was going to. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna go. I will come back, Fanta, and do your track review on a separate video, and maybe find some more tracks to review as well. I just need to go do something like right now, so yeah, and then I'll keep that separate from this video. So I'll be back to do a stream again in like 30 minutes. Yeah, thanks for watching.